In the heart of the lush African savannah, nestled between towering baobab trees and vast fields of golden millet, lay the small village of Ogidi. The village, surrounded by fertile lands and flowing rivers, was ruled by a wise and powerful king named Stephen. The king was beloved by his people for his fairness and bravery, but his reign was not without challenges. In Ogidi, there lived a poor widow named Esther. Esther's life had been filled with hardship since the passing of her husband, who had been a skilled hunter. Left alone to care for her two young children, Esther struggled daily to provide for them. She would rise before the sun, gathering wild fruits, firewood, and herbs from the nearby forest, which she would sell at the village market. Despite her poverty, Esther was known for her kindness and wisdom. She was often sought after by villagers for advice and was respected for her knowledge of traditional healing and the ways of the ancestors. One evening, as the moon cast a silver glow over the village, a group of elders gathered in the king's palace. They had received disturbing news from the village oracle, Baba Ife. The oracle had seen a vision of doom, an imminent attack on Ogidi by a rival king, King Theophilus, who was known for his ruthless conquest. Baba Ife warned that the attack would happen under the cover of the next full moon, and the only way to save Ogidi was for someone to undertake a perilous journey to the sacred grove of Oromala, the god of wisdom, to seek his guidance. The journey was dangerous, as the sacred grove was located deep within the forbidden forest, a place said to be inhabited by spirits and wild beasts. No one in the village dared to take on such a task, for fear of the unknown. Word of the prophecy spread through the village, causing great fear and uncertainty among the people. As the full moon approached, Esther, while tending to her small farm, overheard a conversation between two villagers about the prophecy. She knew that the king was in grave danger, and the fate of Ogidi rested on someone finding the courage to undertake the journey. That night, as she sat by the fire with her children, Esther made a decision. Though she was poor and had little strength, she could not stand by and do nothing while her village faced destruction. She decided to go to the palace the next morning and offer herself for the journey. When Esther arrived at the palace, the guards were surprised to see her. They hesitated to let her in, but her determined gaze convinced them to take her to the king. Standing before King Stephen, Esther bowed respectfully and spoke with conviction. "My king," she said, "I know I am but a poor widow with little to offer, but I cannot let our village fall without trying to save it. I will go to the sacred grove and seek the wisdom of Oromala." The king was moved by Esther's courage. Though he was reluctant to send her on such a dangerous mission, he knew that no one else had volunteered. With a heavy heart, he gave her his blessing and provided her with a small bag of provisions for the journey. Esther set out at dawn, her heart filled with both fear and determination. The path to the sacred grove was treacherous, winding through dense forest, across raging rivers, and over steep hills. Along the way, she encountered many obstacles, a wild boar that blocked her path, a fierce storm that threatened to sweep her away, and treacherous terrain that tested her endurance. But Esther pressed on, drawing strength from her love for her children and her village. She prayed to the ancestors for guidance, and in moments of doubt, she remembered the stories her grandmother had told her about the power of faith and courage. After several days of travel, Esther finally reached the forbidden forest. The air was thick with mist, and the trees loomed like silent guardians. As she ventured deeper into the forest, she felt the presence of unseen spirits watching her every move. But she remained focused on her mission, reciting prayers and offering sacrifices of kola nuts to appease the spirits. At last, Esther arrived at the sacred grove. In the center stood a massive iroko tree, its branches reaching towards the heavens. She knelt before the tree and called out to Oromala, begging for his wisdom and protection for her village. As she prayed, the ground beneath her began to tremble, and a deep voice echoed through the grove. It was Oromala, the god of wisdom, who appeared before her in the form of an old man with eyes that shone like the sun. "Brave widow," Oromala said, "your courage has brought you here, and for that, I will grant you the knowledge you seek. The rival king, King Theophilus, plans to attack Ogidi with an army of fierce warriors. But there is a way to stop him. You must find the sacred drums of Ogidi, hidden in the caves beneath your village. When played, these drums will summon the spirits of your ancestors, who will rise to defend the land. Esther thanked Orunmila and asked how she could find the sacred drums. The god of wisdom smiled and told her that the drums could only be found by one who is pure of heart and guided by the ancestors. Esther returned to Ogidi, exhausted but filled with new hope. She went straight to the king and told him of her encounter with Orunmila. The king ordered a search for the sacred drums, but despite their efforts, the villagers could not find them. Undeterred, Esther gathered the elders and led them in prayer to the ancestors, asking for their guidance. That night, she had a dream in which her late husband appeared to her and showed her the location of the sacred drums, hidden deep within a cave near the village's river. The next morning, Esther led the king and his warriors to the cave. True to her dream, they found the sacred drums, untouched and waiting for the day they would be needed. As the full moon roses, King Theophilus's army approached Ogidi. But before they could reach the village, the sound of the sacred drums filled the air. The ground shook, and the spirits of the ancestors rose from the earth, fierce and majestic, ready to defend their people. King Theophilus's warriors, seeing the might of the ancestral spirits, fled in terror, and the attack was thwarted. Ogidi was saved, and the villagers rejoiced. The king honored Esther for her bravery and wisdom, declaring that she would never want for anything again. She was given a new home, and her children were provided for. The villagers celebrated her as a hero, and her story was told for generations to come. From that day on, Esther was known as the widow who saved the king. Her courage had not only saved Ogidi but had also restored the village's faith in the power of the ancestors and the strength of the human spirit. The drums of Ogidi were enshrined in the palace, to be played only in times of great need. And Ebony lived the rest of her days in peace, knowing that she had fulfilled her destiny and protected the land she loved.